Folks act like if you don't have a big pile of friends, you're failing at life. You scroll past all those smiling faces online, and you start wondering if you're the only one being left out. But life ain't about being popular. It's about having some peace and knowing who you are when the room gets quiet. I'm going to lay out 5 traits a lot of quiet people share, and why a small circle can be stronger than a loud one. Part 1. Lonely isn't the same as being alone. Some nights, you heat up a microwave dinner, you sit down, and that chair across from you stays empty. The TV is on low, but you're not really watching it. You're just filling the room with noise. The phone does not ring, not once, and you catch yourself staring at it like it owes you something. Then you look out the window, and the porch light is on, like it's waiting for somebody who is not coming. Now listen, being alone is not always a bad thing. Sometimes being alone is peace. You can breathe, you can think, you can do things your way. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody. You don't have to put on a smile when you don't feel like it. A quiet house can feel like a warm blanket when the rest of the world is too loud. So I'm not here to shame you for liking your own space, but lonely is different. Lonely is a cold kind of quiet. Lonely is when you feel like nobody sees you, nobody checks on you, nobody would notice if you didn't show up. Lonely is when the mailbox stays empty, day after day, and you start to wonder if your name still matters to anybody besides the electric company. Lonely is not about how many people you know. It's about whether anyone would miss you, even a little. A lot of folks your age carry shame about this. They say, "I don't have friends. Something must be wrong with me." No, that's not always true. Life changes. People move. People get sick. People get tired. And circles get smaller. Sometimes the good people you had are gone. And that is not a character flaw. That is just time doing what time does. So if you're sitting there blaming yourself, I want you to stop. You're not broken. I know how the bills sit on the counter too, like a little pile of stress. That Social Security check comes in, and you already know where it's going. Rent or property tax, groceries, the light bill, maybe a little left for gas. Then you get to the pharmacy, and they hit you with a copay, and you stand there doing math in your head like you're back in school. You might have a Medicare card in your wallet, but that does not stop the worry from creeping in at night. And money is not the only thing that makes people pull back. When you don't feel great, when your knees ache, when your back is tight, you don't want to go out and be social. When gas prices jump, you look at your car keys and you think twice, and that Walmart parking lot feels like a long trip. So you stay home more, and at first it feels fine. Then the days start stacking up. One quiet day turns into 10, and then you forget what it feels like to just talk. Here's the part people don't say out loud. Loneliness makes you feel small. It makes you feel like you don't take up space in the world anymore, like you're just somebody's old story. You can be tough as nails and still feel that. You can be a hard worker and still feel that. You can have kids, grandkids, a whole family, and still feel that because they live far away, or they are busy, or they only call on holidays. And you sit there trying not to complain because you don't want to be that person. So let me say it plain. You do not need a big crowd. I'm not trying to turn you into some social butterfly. I'm not trying to make you join 5 clubs and shake hands with strangers all day. That's not real life. And that's not who most of us are at this age. What you do need is simple. You need 1 or 2 real connections, the kind that make you feel safe. Not for fun, not for likes, for safety and peace of mind. Because the truth is, at this age, life can change fast. Not in a dramatic movie way, in a boring real way, a missed call, a bad night of sleep, a sudden fever, a car that won't start. You don't have to talk about it all the time, but you do have to respect it. If nobody would notice you were quiet for a few days, that is not peace, that is risk. And risk feels a lot like loneliness. It sits in your stomach. You might be thinking, I don't want to bother people. I hear that. I really do. Most older folks were raised to handle their own business. You paid your bills. You showed up to work. You fixed what you could with your own hands. You didn't ask for much. But listen, asking one person to check in once in a while is not begging. It is being smart. It's the same as keeping a spare key. You hope you never need it, but you're glad it's there. Some of you have a quiet garage that used to feel like your second home. Tools on the wall, a workbench, maybe an old chair where you sat and thought things through. Now the garage is still there, but it's too quiet, and the projects feel heavier than they used to. That happens. It's normal. And it's also a warning sign, because when you stop going out, you start shrinking your world. Then even simple things feel hard, and you tell yourself, I'm just not a people person, when really you're just out of practice. And I'm not going to lie to you. Phone calls can feel awkward now. You haven't talked to someone in years, and you don't want to sound needy, you don't want to sound sad. But most decent people aren't judging you. They're living their own messy lives too, and they might be lonely in their own way. Sometimes they are waiting for somebody to go first, and nobody does. That's how good connections die, not with a fight, but with silence. So here's what I want you to hold on to before we go dalsh. Alone can be a choice. Loneliness is a warning. Alone is when you want quiet. Loneliness is when you feel invisible. Alone can be restful. Loneliness can eat you up from the inside, one long night at a time. If that hits you in the chest, good. Not because you should feel bad, but because it means you're awake. And if you're awake, you can do something small about it. In the next part, we're going to talk about why this happens after 55 and why it's not just you. We're going to talk about how life pulls people apart and why good folks end up with fewer and fewer names to call. Then we'll talk about the traits that come with it, the good parts and the parts that can trap you. But for right now, I want you to stop calling yourself a failure and start thinking like a grown adult. I don't need many people. I just need the right ones. Part 2. Why Friends Disappear After 55. You ever stand in a church parking lot after a funeral, holding that folded church bulletin like it weighs 10 pounds, and you look around, and you don't see the same faces you used to? You see a few? Sure, but not the whole crew. Not the old gang from work, not the neighbors from back when the kids were still in school. You realize some folks are gone for good, and some are gone because life pulled them away. And right there, in that parking lot, it hits you. This is what time does. So listen, if you're sitting at home thinking, how did I end up with no friends? I want you to breathe for a second. A lot of it is not you being bad at people. A lot of it is just the way life is built in this country and how it changes after 55. Friends don't always disappear because you did something wrong. Sometimes the calendar just flips and the world shifts under your feet. First big reason is retirement, plain and simple. When you worked, you saw folks 5 days a week. Even if you didn't love them, you still talked, you still laughed sometimes, you still had a reason to bump into each other. Then one day, you're done. And the daily contact is gone, like somebody shut off the faucet. You tell yourself you'll keep in touch, but weeks go by, then months. And now it feels awkward. That's not a moral failure. That's what happens when routine dies. Then people move, and it happens fast. One friend goes to Florida, another goes to Arizona. Somebody follows their daughter to Texas because the grandkids are there. That long drive to visit family in another state starts to feel like a big deal. Because your back hurts, your eyes get tired, and gas prices make you think twice before you even start the engine. You don't just pop over anymore, you plan, and planning takes energy. So distance does what distance does. It quietly breaks things. Health is another big one, and people don't like to talk about it. But it's real. Somebody gets a bad hip. Somebody has heart trouble, somebody can't drive at night anymore, and they stop coming around, or they're taking care of a spouse, and their whole life becomes appointments, pills, and trying to keep the house running. They're not ignoring you, they're just tired, the kind of tired that sits in your bones. You don't see them at the diner for breakfast anymore because they can't leave the house for long. Money matters too, more than people admit. That Social Security check comes in, and you already know how it's going to get cut up. Rent, food, the light bill. maybe a little for gas if you're lucky. Then you get hit with Medicare paperwork, forms, letters, explanations, and it makes your head hurt. You go to the pharmacy, and the copay is higher than you thought, and you stand there doing that quiet math in your mind. When money is tight, people stop going out, not because they hate people, but because everything costs something. And you know what else breaks friendships? The dumb stuff, politics, family drama, one comment at Thanksgiving, one bad day where somebody says something sharp, and nobody wants to apologize. At this age, folks get stubborn because they've lived a long time, and they think they've earned the right to be set in their ways. Sometimes that stubborn streak is what kept them alive, but it can also burn bridges. A friendship that should have survived a small disagreement ends up dead because nobody wants to bend. Another thing is caregiving changes the whole shape of a person's life. If your buddy is driving his wife to doctor visits, picking up prescriptions, dealing with paperwork, he's not thinking about hanging out. He might be sleeping in a chair half the night. He might be running on coffee and worry. When you call, he might not even pick up, not because he doesn't care, but because he can't talk right then. And if you've never been in that spot, you might take it personal when it isn't. Then there's grief, and grief makes people weird. In a quiet way, someone loses a spouse, and suddenly the world feels like a different planet. They don't want to sit with couples anymore. They don't want to answer the same questions. They don't want pity. So they go home, they close the door, and the mailbox stays empty, not because nobody cares, but because they don't know how to let people in. Grief can shrink a person down to a small room, and it takes time to come back out. And I'm going to say something that might sting. Sometimes you pulled away too, not because you're mean, but because you were tired. Tired of driving, tired of noise, tired of listening to the same complaints. Maybe you didn't want to hear about somebody's problems when you had your own pile of problems. Maybe you stopped answering calls, then you felt guilty, then you avoided it more. That's how it goes sometimes. One small choice, then another, then suddenly it's been a year. Also, when you stay home a lot, you get used to it, and going out starts to feel like work. You look at your quiet garage, you look at your chair, you look at the TV remote, and you think, I'm fine right here. Then you realize your fine is starting to feel lonely, and you don't know how to fix it because you haven't practiced being around people. That's not shameful, it's just rust, and rust happens when you don't use something. Let me tell you one more truth. Friendships at 25 are built on time, and friendships at 65 are built on effort. When you're young, you bump into people everywhere. Work, kids' sports, neighbors, parties. You don't have to try as hard. When you're older, everybody has a reason to stay home. Pain, bills, worry, fatigue. So if you want a connection, you often have to be the one who reaches first, even if it feels awkward. That's not fair, but it's real. If you've been beating yourself up, I want you to stop and look at the whole picture. Retirement, moving, sickness, caregiving, money, grief, and yes, a little stubborn pride. All of it plays a part. Most people your age are not swimming in friends. They just don't say it out loud. So if your circle got smaller, that does not mean you're worthless. It means life changed. And here's where we go next, because there's a pattern in the folks who end up with fewer friends. Some of it is good. You don't like fake talk, you don't waste time, you protect your peace, but some of it can trap you and keep you alone longer than you need to be. So in the next part, we're going to talk about those traits, the ones that feel like strength and the ones that quietly turn into a wall. Part 3. Trait number 1 to 2. You hate fake talk and you're very selective. You ever go to a backyard BBQ and the air is thick with fake smiles, like everybody is auditioning for most normal family? Paper plates, cheap hot dogs, somebody flipping burgers, a cooler full of soda, folding chairs that wobble. People laugh a little too loud. They talk about the weather. They talk about staying busy, and nobody says what they really mean. You stand there for 10 minutes, and you already want to be back on your porch. So if that's you, you're not crazy. You've just got trait number 1, you hate fake talk. You can hear it when somebody is doing small talk just to fill space. You can smell it when someone is being nice for show. At your age, you don't have the patience for that, and I don't blame you. You've worked too hard. You've been through too much. You don't want to spend your time trading empty words like it's a hobby. The good part is that trait protects you. It keeps you out of drama. It keeps you out of fake friendships that cost you energy. You don't need 10 people saying we should get coffee sometime when nobody means it. You'd rather have one real conversation than 20 shallow ones. That's not being rude. That's just being done with nonsense. But listen, here's the cost. When you hate fake talk, you can start calling everybody fake. You hear one awkward comment, you see one little act, and you decide, nope, not for me. You don't give people room to be nervous, or tired, or clumsy with words. You forget that not everyone is smooth, and not everyone knows what to say. Some folks are not fake. They're just uncomfortable, and you can toss them out by mistake. Trait number 2 is tied right into that. You're very selective. You don't let many people close. And again, I get it. You've been burned before. You've seen people take. You've seen people gossip. You've seen friends disappear the minute you needed them. So now you keep the gate locked. You keep your circle small, and you protect your peace like it's the last good thing you own. That's the good side. Peace matters. At this age, drama is not cute. Drama is expensive. It costs sleep. It costs blood pressure. It costs money. It costs your patience. You don't want somebody calling you with chaos every week. You don't want to sit there listening to the same mess when you've got your own bills to pay. So being selective can be smart. It can keep you steady. But the bad side is this. If you're too selective, you end up with nobody to call. And then one day, you're sitting at home, you're looking at your phone, and you realize you don't have a single person you feel safe reaching out to. Not because you are unlovable, but because you shut the door so tight. Even the good ones stop knocking. That's the part folks don't like to admit, because it makes you feel responsible, and responsibility is heavy. I've seen it happen 100 times. Somebody goes to a church potluck, stands in the fellowship hall, and they hear the same polite talk. How you been? Oh, you know. Bless your heart. And they roll their eyes inside. Then they step away. They go get a second cup of coffee, and they drift toward the door. They tell themselves, these people don't get me. And maybe they're right. Maybe they don't. But they never give anybody a chance to know them either. And there's another piece. You might not want to drive far anymore. Gas prices go up. Your body doesn't love long trips, and you don't want to deal with a packed parking lot. Even a simple Walmart run feels like a whole event now. Bright lights, loud carts, people rushing like they're late for something. So you start picking and choosing where you go, and who you see, and pretty soon, you don't see much of anybody. Now here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to tell you to put yourself out there like some 20-year-old on the internet. That advice is cheap. It ignores your real life. You're not trying to build a big social life. You're trying to have a calm life where you don't feel invisible. So we're going to do this the honest way. Small, simple, and real. First thing, you need a sentence that opens a door without being fake. One sentence? Here it is. And you can steal it. I'm not great at small talk, but I'm glad to see a familiar face. That's it. It's honest. It's simple. And it tells the truth without dumping your whole life on somebody. Most decent people will relax when they hear that, because they're not great at small talk either. Second thing, you need one easy rule for giving people a fair shot. Not forever, just a fair shot. My rule is this. Give a person 2 tries before you write them off. The first time, they might be having a bad day. They might be nervous. They might say something dumb. The second time, you'll see who they really are. If they're still rude, still draining, still full of drama, then fine. Step back. That's your right. But don't throw away a good person because they were awkward once. And listen, selective does not mean closed. Selective means you choose. Closed means you shut everybody out. You can keep your standards and still leave a crack in the door. You can protect your peace and still let one decent person in, little by little. because peace is not the same thing as isolation, and I don't want you confusing those two. Sometimes the problem is not that people are fake, it's that you're tired. You're tired of being disappointed, tired of trying, tired of feeling like you're the only one making effort. So you stop trying, and you call it being private. But deep down, you still want one real connection, somebody you can talk to without putting on a show. That's not weakness. That's human. So next time you're at that BBQ, or that church potluck, or even sitting at a diner with a cup of coffee, don't aim for a big conversation. Aim for one real sentence and one small step. Say hello. Ask one simple question, and then stop. Let it breathe. You don't have to win the room. You just have to stop disappearing. And in the next part, we're going to talk about another trait that keeps a lot of older folks alone, even good, strong people. It's the I got it trait, the one where you do everything yourself, and you don't ask for help, not even when you should. That one feels like strength, but it can cost you more than you think. Part 4, trait number 3, you're too independent and it costs you. You're standing at the pharmacy counter, the clerk is talking fast, asking about your insurance, your Medicare, your copay. You nod like you understand, because you don't want to look lost in front of a line of people. You tap your card, you grab the bag, and you walk out like it's no big deal. Then you sit in your car in the parking lot, and your shoulders drop, because your head feels tired, and you're not even sure what you just agreed to. Listen, being independent is not bad. A lot of us made it through life because we had to. Nobody was coming to save us. We worked. We paid bills. We kept the lights on. We handled our own business. That toughness built a whole lot of good people in this country. But then something happens after 55, that same toughness can turn into a wall. You start saying, I'm fine, when you're not fine, and I got it, when you don't got it, not because you're lying, but because you don't want to be a burden. And after a while, people stop offering, because they think you truly don't need anyone. You go home and the kitchen counter has pill bottles lined up like little soldiers. There's a stack of mail with medical bills mixed in with coupons and junk flyers. The Social Security check comes in, and it feels like it disappears before you even touch it, because everything has a place it needs to go. That's real life, and it's heavy, and it's not something you should carry alone just to prove a point. Gas prices go up, and suddenly every trip feels like a decision. You think twice about driving across town, and you think 3 times about driving at night. You tell yourself, I'm okay. I don't need help, because help might mean somebody asks questions you don't want to answer. So you shrink your world a little, and then a little more, until your world is the house, the store, and the doctor. And let me say the hard part. At this age, one small mistake can change your whole week. One bad drive when you're tired, one confusing form, one moment where you miss a detail, and now you're stuck on the phone, bouncing between numbers, getting nowhere. It's not because you're dumb, it's because the system is a maze, and the maze is harder when you're alone. You probably have a doctor appointment card on the fridge, stuck up there with a magnet. You look at it, and you tell yourself you'll remember, you'll handle it, you always do. But then the day comes, you're sore, you slept bad, you're rushing, and your mind feels foggy. That's when having one person to lean on is not weakness. It's just smart planning. Here's a question I want you to sit with, and I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to keep you safe. If you slipped in the shower, who would know by dinner time? Who would notice you didn't show up or didn't answer your phone? That's not a sad story, that's just real life, and real life does not ask permission. A lot of folks keep a cane or a walker by the door, and they hate it because it feels like a sign. They don't want to admit their body changed, so they hide the help, and they push through like it's still 1995. But your pride does not pay the bill if you get stuck, and your pride does not lift you up when you can't. I'm saying that with respect, not with shame. And then there's the quiet garage, the tools on the wall, the stuff you used to lift without thinking. You look at that heavy box, and you tell yourself, I can do it, because that's who you've always been. But your back is not the same. Your balance is not the same, and your energy is not the same. Doing it all alone is not brave. Sometimes it's just risky. So here's the better kind of independence, the kind that keeps you alive and calm. You stay in charge. You still make your own choices. But you build a tiny safety net. 1 or 2 people. That's it. Not a big crowd. Not a whole committee. Just 1 or 2 people who can answer when you call and who you don't have to perform for. Start small. Do it like a grown adult, not like a needy kid. Put an ice contact in your phone in case of emergency. 1 name, 1 number. Then put a note on the fridge, clear and simple. Your name, a contact number, and any key info you would want someone to know fast. You are not being dramatic. You are being prepared. Same as having a spare tire. And if the idea of calling someone makes your stomach tighten, keep it plain. You don't have to spill your heart. You don't have to tell your whole life story. You can say, "Hey, I'm trying to be smarter about things. Can I put you as my emergency contact?" and then shut up and let them answer. Most decent people will say yes, because it's an honor to be trusted, not a burden. Look out the window sometime at night. You'll see a neighbor's porch light across the street. You might not even know them well, but that light is a reminder. Other people are out there living their lives too. You don't have to become best friends, but you can become known. You can become a familiar face. Independence does not mean you vanish. It means you choose your life, and you choose a little backup. So listen, I respect how tough you are. I really do. But you don't get extra points for doing it all alone. You just get more tired. If you can build a small safety net now, you buy yourself peace later, the real kind of peace. And in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens at night when the house gets quiet and your mind starts running laps you didn't ask for. Part 5, Trait 44, You Overthink at Night. It's 2 a.m. You're in that recliner. The TV is on low, but it's not really helping. The kitchen clock keeps ticking like it's got a job, and you can hear every little sound in the house. Your phone sits there quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel dumb for even looking at it. There's a stack of mail on the counter, and it feels like it's watching you. Night does that. It makes the house quiet, and it makes your brain loud. In the daytime, you can run an errand, wash dishes, mow a little, watch the game, anything to keep your mind busy. But at night, there's fewer distractions, and all the worry you shoved down starts crawling back up. Money, health, family. It all shows up when the lights go low, and it can feel like you're the only person awake in the whole world. You look at the table and you see that Social Security check or the note that it came in, and you already know it's spoken for. Then you see the utility bill, and you do that tired math again, the kind that makes your chest tight. You think about gas prices, because even going across town feels like a choice now. You're not weak, you're just living in the real world, and the real world has a price tag on everything. Then your eyes land on the pill bottles by the sink, and your mind starts running in circles. You think about the last doctor visit, the next one coming up, the little appointment reminder stuck on the fridge, right next to the Medicare card you keep meaning to put back in your wallet. You tell yourself, "I'm fine," but your body is older than your pride. And when you're alone at night, it's easy to feel like every ache is a warning. That's not you being dramatic. That's your brain trying to keep you safe, but doing it the loud, messy way. The worst part is the thoughts don't stay on one thing. They bounce around like a pinball. Did I pay that bill? Why didn't my son call back? What if I get sick? What if I end up in some place I don't want to be? And because the house is quiet, those thoughts sound bigger than they really are. You can be a tough old dog and still get chewed up by your own head. That 2 a.m. feeling is real, and you're not the only one who knows it. Sometimes the overthinking is really loneliness wearing a different shirt. During the day, you can tell yourself you're fine because you're moving around, you're doing tasks. At night, you feel the empty parts more, the empty chair, the empty garage, the empty space where conversation used to live. You start thinking about people you haven't seen in years, and you wonder if you even know how to talk anymore. Social skills get rusty when you stay home too long, and that rust makes you avoid people even more. So let's get practical, because just stop thinking is a joke. Nobody can do that. You don't need fancy tricks. You need simple habits that calm your body down, and your body will help your mind follow. Start with one rule. Wake up at the same time every morning, even if you slept bad. Your sleep will get steadier when your body knows what time the day starts. And when your sleep gets steadier, your thoughts don't hit as hard at night. Then do one small thing in the morning that puts you back in your own life. Take a short walk around the block. 10 minutes. Not fast, just moving, and get a little sunlight on your face. Come back and make a simple breakfast. Eggs, toast, oatmeal, something real, not just coffee and worry. Your brain behaves better when your body is fed and your legs have moved. It sounds too simple, but simple works. If you wake up at night and your mind is chewing on you, don't just lay there and let it win. Sit up, drink a little water, and write one line on a piece of paper. Just one line. This is what I'm worried about. Put it down and tell yourself, I'll handle it in the morning. You're not ignoring the problem. You're putting it in the right place. Daylight. Night is for rest, not for solving your whole life. And I'm going to say something that people don't like hearing. You can't wait to feel better before you reach out. If you wait until you feel strong and cheerful, you might wait forever. You call someone when you're a little shaky. That's the whole point of having people. You don't have to dump your pain on them. You can keep it simple. Hey, I've been in my head lately. Just wanted to hear a voice. That one sentence can pull you back from the edge of the night. If your house is cold, turn on the space heater. Make it comfortable, because comfort matters more than pride at 2 a.m. If the porch light is on outside, let it be on. It's a small thing that makes the place feel less dead. If the news is yelling about gas prices and the world falling apart, turn it off. You don't need that at midnight. Your mind is already full. Don't feed it more. Quiet is fine, but doom is not. Now listen close. If the worry or sadness has been sitting on you for weeks, not one bad night, but weeks, you don't just tough it out. You talk to your doctor, or you talk to a counselor, the same way you'd get help for a bad knee. That's not weakness. That's maintenance, like changing the oil so the engine doesn't burn up. You deserve help that works, not just willpower. And I want you to remember this. Night thoughts lie sometimes. They tell you you're alone forever. They tell you nobody cares. They tell you you missed your chance. That's not truth. That's fatigue talking. That's fear talking. You don't have to believe every thought that shows up in the dark. You just have to get yourself to morning, one steady step at a time. So when you hit that wall, don't shame yourself. You're an older person in a hard world, trying to carry too much in silence. Tomorrow morning, get up at the same time, take that short walk, eat something simple, and reach out to one real person, even for 5 minutes. In the next part, we're going to talk about how to choose peace without turning your life into isolation, because peace is good, but disappearing is not. Part 6, trait number 5, you choose peace, but don't turn it into isolation. Some mornings, the best place in the world is a quiet diner. Same booth, same cup of diner coffee. The waitress sees you and says, the usual, before you even open your mouth. You don't have to be funny. You don't have to explain your life. You just sit there and feel normal for a minute. That feeling right there, being known without being chased, that's what a lot of older folks really want. And I get it. You choose peace on purpose. You've lived long enough to know that drama is not free. It costs you sleep. It costs you blood pressure. It costs you money. One messy friend can pull you into fights, phone calls, and problems that are not yours. At this age, you don't have time to babysit grown people. You're trying to keep the lights on and your body working. So yes, choosing peace is smart. It's smart to step away from gossip, from folks who always need something, from people who leave you tired every time you talk to them. It's smart to say, no thanks, when you feel your gut warning you, Peace can keep you steady, and steady is gold when you're living on a fixed check and counting every trip to the store. But listen, peace can turn into isolation if you're not careful. It happens slow, like a drip in the sink. You don't notice it until the damage is done. You stop going to things because you don't want the noise. Then you stop going because it feels like work. Then you stop going because you feel out of place. Peace is when you can breathe. Isolation is when nobody would notice if you were gone for a week. A lot of people tell themselves, "I'm fine. I like being alone." Maybe you do, and that's okay. But if your mailbox stays empty and nobody checks in, and days go by with no real voice in your house, that's not just peace anymore. That's your world getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And a small world gets dangerous when you're older, because life is one surprise away from trouble. Here's the truth that makes it easier. You do not need a big friend group. You don't need 10 people to go out with. You don't need a packed calendar. You don't need to stay busy to prove anything. What you need is simple. 1 or 2 real people, and 1 or 2 places where folks recognize your face. Not deep talks, not big emotions, just steady, safe connection. That's why the diner works. It's not a party. It's a routine. The waitress knows your order. The guy at the counter nods. And you exist in the world for a minute. You can do the same thing in other places. A public library, the senior center, the YMCA, the VFW hall, even a small church where you grab a bulletin and sit in the back. You're not going there to make friends fast. You're going there to become a familiar face. And being a familiar face is more powerful than people think. When you show up at the same time every week, people start expecting you in a good way. They notice if you're not there. They ask, "You doing okay?" And that question alone can save you from slipping too far into your own head. You don't have to tell your whole story. You just say, "Yeah, just been tired," and that's enough for now. Let's talk practical, because gas prices are real, and nobody wants to drive all over town. Pick one place close, one place that doesn't cost much, and one time you can actually keep. Maybe it's Monday morning coffee at that diner. Maybe it's Wednesday at the library. Maybe it's Friday at the senior center for a simple lunch. Maybe it's a short walk at the YMCA when it's not crowded. Keep it small, keep it steady, keep it doable. If you want the easiest path, do something that already has a purpose. A volunteer shift at a food pantry is a good one, because you don't have to be social. You just help. You carry a box. You sort cans. You say hi, and you go home feeling useful, not drained. That useful feeling is a strong medicine for older folks who feel invisible. And it usually comes with decent people, the kind who aren't looking for drama. Now, I know some of you are thinking, "I don't like people." What you really mean is, "I don't like the kind of people who bring trouble." Fair enough. I don't either. That's why you choose places with simple rules and simple behavior, places where folks act like adults. The library is quiet. The YMCA has a routine. The VFW has a code. And the diner is just people trying to eat and get on with the day. And you don't have to turn it into a big deal. You don't have to walk in and announce, "I'm lonely." You just show up. You sit. You nod. You say, "Morning," and you let time do its job. Friendship at this age is not fireworks. It's repetition. It's seeing the same faces until the fear goes down. That's how you keep peace. You let the connection grow slow, like it's supposed to. When you get home, put it on your calendar on the fridge, plain as day. Diner, 8 a.m., Tuesday, or library, 10 a.m., Thursday, something like that. Then treat it like a doctor appointment, not because it's medical, but because it matters for your health. And if you need to, tie it to an errand, like a Walmart or Costco run, right after. So the trip feels worth the gas. Simple, clean, no overthinking. So keep your peace. You earned it. Just don't confuse peace with disappearing. Pick one place, show up at the same time, let people learn your face, and let yourself remember you belong somewhere outside your living room. And in the next part, I'm going to tell you how to close this whole thing down into a tiny plan. Fewer friends, but the right ones, so you feel safer and less alone, starting this week. Part 7. Closing fewer friends, but the right ones? Some days you open that mailbox and it's nothing but air. Maybe a coupon, maybe a bill, and that's it. Then one day there's a simple card in there. Not fancy, just a few words, and it makes the house feel less cold. You stand on the porch a second longer than you planned, porch light still on from the night before, and you realize how little it takes to feel seen. That's what we're talking about here. Not a crowd, just proof you still matter. Now listen, fewer friends is not failure. Life does that after 55. People move, people get sick, people get tired, and days start slipping by faster than they used to. But having nobody, that's the part that gets dangerous, because it means you've got no backup when life gets messy. It's not about parties, it's about safety and peace of mind, the kind that lets you sleep. You've got a stack of medical bills on the counter sometimes, mixed in with junk mail, like the world is daring you to keep up. You've got that Medicare card, and you've got a pharmacy receipt with a copay that makes you shake your head. The Social Security check comes in, and before you can blink, it's already split up. Rent, food, lights, and whatever's left. When money is tight and your body is older, you don't need more stress, you need a simple plan. So here's the truth I want you to remember. You do not need a big circle, you need the right people. 1 or 2 people who will pick up, and 1 or 2 places where you show your face, so you don't fade out of the world. You're not trying to be popular, you're trying to stay connected enough to be safe. That's it. Simple, clean, and real. Let's make a minimum plan you can actually do, not some new you nonsense. First, you need 2 phone numbers, 2 real human beings you can call, not a hotline, not a robot menu. One can be family, one can be a neighbor, a church friend, an old coworker, anybody decent who won't make you feel stupid. Put those 2 names where you can see them, and don't overthink it. Second, put an ICE contact in your phone, in case of emergency. 1 name, 1 number. Then put a note on the fridge, plain and simple, your name, your address, your main contact, and any key info somebody would need fast. You're not being dramatic, you're being smart, like keeping a flashlight for a power outage. The goal is, if something goes sideways, you're not alone in the dark. Third, pick 1 place you show up each week, just 1, and keep it easy. Maybe it's Diner Coffee on Tuesday morning, same time, same booth, the kind of place where the waitress starts to recognize you. Maybe it's the library, maybe it's the senior center, maybe it's a church service where you grab a bulletin and sit where you're comfortable. When you show up steady, you become a familiar face, and being a familiar face is a quiet kind of protection. And I know gas prices are no joke, so keep it close to home. Tie it to something you already do, like a grocery run or a pharmacy pickup, so it doesn't feel like extra. Put it on the calendar on the fridge, right next to your doctor appointments, like it matters, because it does. When it's written down, you're less likely to talk yourself out of it on a tired day. Now here's the small habit that keeps you from slipping into isolation. 1 check-in a week, 1 call, 5 minutes, no big speech, no dumping your whole life. You can say, hey, just checking in, wanted to hear your voice, and that's enough. A lot of good connections don't die from hate, they die from silence, so you fight silence with 1 small call. If you're sitting there thinking, nobody wants to hear from me, that's your fear talking. Not a fact. Most people are busy and tired, and they'll be glad somebody reached first, even if they don't say it perfectly. And if 1 person doesn't answer, fine, try the 2nd number next week. This is not about pride. It's about building a rope you can grab when you need it. You might have a quiet garage that feels like it belongs to an old version of you, and I get that too. But your life is not over just because it's quieter. It's just different now, and different needs a different plan. Fewer friends is not failure, but having nobody is a risk you don't need to take. Don't wait until you're in trouble to build your safety net. So do one thing today, just one. Pick a name, make a 5-minute phone call, and then hang up before you talk yourself into shame. And remember this line, because it's the whole point. You don't need a crowd. You need the right ones.